A year ago, I created a video on making a generous loadout, and in that year I've become better at explaining my points and battle cats. So today, I want to recreate this original video that you might have watched before this one. General loadouts. Whys and whats. So why would you want a general loadout in the first place? Well, though a lot of stages require plenty of specific cats and planning after finding out what's in the stage, a generous loadout is still useful for starting a stage to see what you'd need, and for the stages that don't need as much planning. It's meant to be generally what you'd need to beat most average BattleCat stages, so think of what kind of units could be useful on any stage as opposed to more specialist kinds of units, or units that can be useful for common circumstances you find yourself in. Basically, you'd want to make a generous loadout so you can have a set of cats that can beat as many stages as possible without having to change your loadout. Some are against the idea of even having a general loadout, as it could be seen as limiting yourself to one set of cats, which can hurt your ability to utilize different units when you have to. One tip that I'd suggest is to not rely too hard on a few powerful units like Ubers, for example, or even talented cats, as there will come a day where none of them will work anymore, and you have to actually plan and think of how to tackle the stage at hand, and it's unlikely that you'd have an Uber for each and every situation. Cat classes. Now that we know what a general loadout is, we have to talk about the different types of archetypes cats can be. A lot of how you construct a general loadout depends on you. You can disagree with all of what I say, just remember that. But these are the kind of units that I, first, wouldn't suggest in general loadouts. Critters and waivers. While you still can use these cats in general loadouts for sure, and to possible great effect, they've been some of the least useful in my experience. I don't suggest critters because medals aren't very common. Sure, you can bring a critter in anticipation for there being like a metal doge or metal hippo, but the chance of that isn't very high, and most critters are completely unusable against any other kind of enemy. Because unless your Catasaurus is mega buff with max talents and stuff like that, he's probably not going to be very effective against reds or aliens. Waivers are an interesting subclass of units as they're basically snipers as well, but I still wouldn't suggest them for general usage. A good few of them are solid like macho legs, but their usage basically boils down to wiping enemy meat shields and doing chip damage to backlanders or the boss. So unless the meat shields are being spammed like crazy, it'd probably be better to bring a regular ranger or LD unit instead. Suggestions. I can't create a general loadout for you as we're all in different places in terms of progression, and we all have different cats. But I'll give suggestions and I'll showcase two loadouts that are solid for different reasons. First, you need to have meat shields. When we talk about specific stages, sometimes one is better than the other, but generally, you'd want either dual erasers or two Mohawk variants and one eraser. The erasers both have to be of similar health, by the way, for it to be effective, so normal eraser and untalented low eraser, for example, wouldn't work. After you have your meat shields, make sure you have a ranger or two. This ranger can be a dragon variant, Kitty of Liberty, cyborg, cameraman, or any other ranger you're thinking of. And on top of having this ranger, make sure you have an LD unit so it can pierce behind units and hit the possible backline. Guys that can be good at this are Golfer, Courier, and Housewife. But make sure you already have a regular ranged unit so that your LD unit's blind spot won't be taken advantage of by enemies. Melee units like the Island variants or Pizza Cat can also be very useful at times, so I'd suggest putting one in there, and rushers can also be useful in plenty of circumstances. The rusher I'd especially suggest is Fishman for its high damage. Then finally, you can have a possible nuker or two, either with range or without range. You don't always need an Uber in your set, but if you feel as if your Uber could be one of these cats that could help you in your loadout, then go on ahead and use one. It'll be like your ultimate unit. Here's my first loadout, and my thinking behind it. Dual erasers are effective as meat shields, and I prefer this over dual mohawks and an eraser as it's easier to keep up with and it gives me another slot. Goman seems like a weird choice even though he's max talent wise and level 50 plus 75, but he's rather useful at this level for clearing peons and weaker enemies and getting some money when the stage starts. I don't suggest his unit specifically though if you haven't buffed him like crazy, and instead for an average player it'd make more sense to have an island variant or maximum. Fishman is a great rusher with high damage, and he's been useful for many stages, and so is Can with her high HP, speed, and damage. She's literally a mini Barlog for 675 with double bounty. Courier for his LD and piercing abilities, and Liberty for her solid ranging, great DPS at level 45 with nearly max attack buff. I chose Ro over any other light tanker because of his incredible HP in general, and especially against reds. I've maxed out his HP, cat's eye level, and his cost down, so he only costs 975. I got Pizza Cat too for his occasional waves and good melee damage, and finally Dancer for his nuking abilities, good cooldown, area attack, and low cost for what he does. You might agree or disagree with how I created this general loadout, but this is what I find to be the most effective in most random circumstances. I've got nukers, melee units with high damage, range, piercing abilities, and everything that you'd usually need to beat a Battle Cat stage. My second loadout is also valid in my eyes, but it's far different from my main loadout. I have Mohawk variants and erasers, so I can cover all possible stages better, just in case my erasers are one-shot. Cameraman, especially with talents, is great for the DPS, and I have Sniper the Deadeye so that enemies can have a harder time pushing so quickly in case they are. And with wave immunity in case there are waivers, and so I can have my enemies weakened by 50%. Manic Island Cat is my melee unit for his high damage, great cost, and his great survivability. Little King Dragon because of his cool mini-wave ability and surge immunity just in case there are surge enemies. Barlog because he's Barlog, and Awakened Bahamut for his incredible burst power. I did all of this to show you that General Loadout's going to have the same function but can be very different depending on who you have and how you want to set it up. There's no perfect way to create a General Loadout. There's only my way and everyone else's, but today I just wanted to show you how I've learned to do it based off of my 6+ years of playing this game from save to save and where I currently am. I hope this video is able to help you when it comes to making General Loadouts, and before I go, here's a verse. Galatians 6:3. If you think you are too important to help someone, you are only fooling yourself. You are not that important. Reading Romans, Galatians, and Corinthians, for me, has been such an eye-opening and soul-cleansing experience. It's probably one of the best states I can get into once I am. And as a Christian, all I can do for you is suggest you read at least a few verses from these books despite everything that's said about us. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and have fun making general loadouts, everyone. Goodbye.